wasn't too long ago when Square Enix put IO Interactive, one of their studios, up for sale because of financial issues. Luckily, IO managed to negotiate to buy themselves out, and they made the jump from AAA to indie. Now, in a recent interview, the head of IO Interactive has talked about the freedom of going indie and what exactly the company is free to do going forward.
I think quite like the feeling of freedom is the mic. Being free to wear no pants on camera, nobody else can see you, for instance.
Did you have to do that when I leaned over?
IO Interactive, the Danish developers best known for the Hitman series, have been around a long time. Formed in 1990 as the casually titled ASXNR 14.811 APS.
Wow, they got that? That was free.
They sound like a robot.
That's lucky, man. They got that name.
They later became IO in 1998 and were bought by Eidos Interactive in 2004 before Eidos was then bought by Square Enix Europe in 2009. In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz last week, IO Interactive CEO Hakan Abrak spoke about how the company is handling the transition from AAA to indie and why they decided to go independent despite offers from other publishers. For those who might not remember, back in May this year, Square Enix announced they would be dropping IO, and they quite coldly said, quote, "There can be no guarantees that the negotiations will be concluded successfully." But at the beginning of June, IO Interactive announced they had negotiated a management buyout with Square Enix, and crucially, they would retain the rights to most of their IPs, including Hitman and Freedom Fighters. According to Abrak, there were numerous offers from publishers interested in buying IO and the Hitman IP, but the company wanted to retain their individuality. He said, quote, "We have really been in awe regarding interest from developers and investors alike. We went through with the management buyout because we believe deep down in our core that we need to feel, breathe and act independently." I know exactly what he's feeling there, exactly what he's thinking.
Can we just carry on?
We need to be free to embrace and live directly with our fans and community, and free to make fundamental decisions for the studio and our games within our own halls.
First thing I thought when I heard all this was, oh my god, they got the IP to Freedom Fighters. I flippin' love Freedom Fighters, the best 7 out of 10 game of all time. Doesn't mean there's going to be development with it, but the fact that they've still got it, I find very exciting, and just that slight percentage chance that they might do something with it is cool. Abrak also mentioned the company would not be opposed to working with publishers in the future though. He said, quote, "We believe that being independent makes us far more attractive to work with when it comes to their motivation to succeed with our games. Since going independent, IO's first move was to self-publish a Game of the Year edition for Hitman, which included all the content released so far and some new content, like extra story missions and weapons." Abrak told Games Industry, quote, "Yes, it is self-published, and just for the record, it feels pretty good to say that. However, we created a digital, ever-expanding platform with Hitman, which meant that we released more than 50 updates last year alone. We've changed how we work, and as a studio, we've never felt more confident and more in control of knowing what we're doing. We learned so much during the first season of this game, and by the end, we felt like a well-oiled machine."
Abrak pointed out that the company didn't get everything right about the launch of Hitman, and the episodic business model initially caused some confusion. He acknowledged that while the episodic nature of the main story campaign received major praise from the press and many gamers, it wasn't necessarily everyone's cup of tea. Interestingly, he said the live model with frequent content updates, challenges and live events worked wonders for the game. Apparently the new model has paid off handsomely for IO, and Hitman has accrued over 7 million players since launch. It is interesting to see a previously AAA game studio taking the leap from being AAA to independent. We saw it in the past recently. The game We Happy Few made the jump in the opposite direction, right? They were independent to begin with, and they did a deal with Gearbox, and now they're AAA. So the game went from being independent to AAA. IO taking a different approach, and taking the exact opposite approach, in fact. And he's saying here in this interview that it's refreshing, and he's got more choice, more freedom to do what he wants. I think it's great. I think this is one of the reasons why the games industry is kind of suffering at the moment. It's the publishers, the people who want to make loads of money out of these games, people who think about the industry just as an industry to make money. It's great that they're doing this because they can now focus on the game themselves, the gamers, making a good product, making people happy, not just profits.
They seem to be happy with the live model thing, which they say, which is like games as a service, I guess, isn't it? Just kind of breaking up the game into little chunks that you're giving out to people. They were right to say with the Hitman model that it was a bit confusing to some people. It was initially quite unappealing to me because I just kind of subconsciously was like, what is that? I don't care. It didn't just come out as Hitman is a great game, buy it, it's worth buying. It was like some weird episodic thing. It just didn't come clear as a kind of good message initially, but it's got great word of mouth since then, and it's kind of grown this reputation as a Game of the Year candidate for that year and everything, and a lot of people saying nice stuff about it, and they've dealt with that games as a service model really, really well. So well, in fact, that they're carrying that over with them as an independent developer and not just doing it because Square Enix told them to do it. They actually think it's a good idea, and they think that creatively it's a good way to deliver a game. And you believe that when you hear it like that, but when Square Enix are above them, you kind of think, well, they're only saying that because Square Enix told them to say it. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with this studio at the moment. I'm absolutely delighted that they have managed to buy themselves out and become independent, because this is a big studio. It's a chunky studio. It's not like your average independent studio now. This is a proper studio that makes Hitman games, you know? So I think they could do some great stuff in the future, and it's definitely one to keep an eye on. And I'm glad that they are so happy being independent. It's cool.
And just for the record, as comfortable and free and liberating as it would be to do otherwise, I do actually wear pants in the office, unfortunately, but each to their own, innit?
So that's the latest with IO Interactive. What do you think about all this? Are you excited to see what they do in the future? Let us know down in the comments. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every day. You can check out that video right there, right now if you want, and the link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. See you next time.